Entertainment Tonight.
Tonight at 7:30 on Channel 3.
Suzi Wahl has made a name for herself in X-rated pictures. Now she's caught in another controversy. As Bill McGowan reports, it's all because she's not content to be a movie siren. She wants to be a police siren.
Daydreams is a story of my being at work, daydreaming like a lot of people do about where they'd rather be.
Daydreams is the title of this amateur porn movie starring Suzi Wahl, who is, believe it or not, a former cop. And these days, sultry Suzi is dreaming about her next job. She wants to be police chief of Lake St. Louis, Missouri.
The idea came to me to apply for the police chief job because it was an opening that just almost was like laid in my lap.
It could become America's first X-rated detective story. The ex-cop who becomes the X-rated police chief.
There aren't many female police chiefs to begin with. And to find a police chief that would have been in an adult movie is probably even more rare.
Suzi's first-hand knowledge of law enforcement goes back a long way. Before she got into porn, she got a degree in criminal justice. She trained at state and local police academies and has 5 years on the job.
I have an experience with a department very similar to the one we have here. I have a good rapport with the officers.
About 4 years ago, she and her husband, T.L., began a mail-order amateur porn business called Video Alternatives. Sexy Suzi soon became star of the show, and business was great.
The first year of business, we did $11,000 gross. The second year, we did $65,000 gross. The next year, we did $180,000 gross, and this year, we were on track for $250,000 gross.
But then, things went bust.
Are you breaking the law, sir?
We feel that everything that we're doing is constitutionally protected.
This past September, local cops, led by Police Chief John Selby, raided the Wall's home and carted off the tools of the trade.
Ma'am, do you know why you're being arrested? Ma'am, do you know why you're being arrested?
The bust took tiny Lake St. Louis by storm and triggered a chain reaction across the state. The Walls said they couldn't possibly have done anything wrong. After all, 5 of their employees were deputies in a nearby sheriff's department.
They knew when they came to work for me that we were dealing in controversial, although not illegal, subjects.
4 deputies had to resign, and then things got even more bizarre. A judge threw out the arrest because cops allegedly lied to get a search warrant. A detective was suspended, and Police Chief Selby quit.
It's time to turn this department over to somebody else. Quite frankly, I've been in this business 30 years. Time to go on to something else.
He was telling me one thing when the detectives were telling me something else. And all of a sudden, the investigation got very confusing.
So confusing, in fact, that Suzi realized she could have done a much better job on her own arrest.
I thought to myself while I was sitting there, if this is our local law enforcement, maybe they could use a little assistance. Maybe they could use a little direction, because I think one of the reasons that that investigation fell apart is because the management was so poor.
So when Selby quit, Suzi applied for the job. Of course, she'll have some fierce competition.
And his will be considered with the other 48, 49, or 50 of them. They'll all be reviewed, and decisions will be made at that time on who's qualified.
Suzi's neighbors are split over her qualifications for the job.
I don't see any reason why Suzi Wahl couldn't be the police chief.
The way those two people conduct their life, I don't think we need a police chief in Lake St. Louis like that.
Suzi's qualifications for making porn movies are well documented, but is she really qualified to run the police force?
I'm certain that after seeing Suzi in action that she would be an asset to this police department and to this community.
The people of Lake St. Louis will find out if Miss Wahl is their new police chief in January. Now, when we come back, he could run, but he couldn't hide.
November 19th, 1991, the detective was at a restaurant.